Hello, I'm Venerable Joshua Jorogen Garuya, an Anglican church minister. I ventured into the world that seeks answers for the human problems and ailments, especially Christians, and I've discovered some. I prepare to make several observations through this YouTube channel talks coming weekly. Please keep on watching, I shall tell you more. Now, welcome to the presentation of my third video talk on the 4 biblical principles for prosperity, well-being, and success. It is an old saying that order is heaven's first law. Among the many observations science has made is the way the universe operates. Our closest solar system is where the Earth, among other 8 planets, rotate around the Sun. By the way, today scientists are wondering whether Pluto is among the 9 planets because of its small size. Each of the planets have moons moving around them. We are also told that many stars have their solar systems. When you think of it, that they do not collide in the universe, rather they display harmony. It tells that this is God's harmony in the universal creation. It follows that there are laws that work in harmony with one another. The law of gravity, for example, has a great part it plays on the earth. We hear of those who go to the moon cannot walk. They just float around. On our planet Earth, there are divine laws that have made God's creation hold together more so among the whole humanity. As I have studied about these laws, I have observed that these are the divine laws God works with on earth, which is part of the whole universe. They apply everywhere you could go on earth. These are inherent strong forces or energies that work to the common good of the world. They all work together in a harmonious manner, bringing beauty, harmony, and life. This is the work of God's divine eternal plan. Now, the most interesting and heartening experience is that these laws are lodged in the human mind or heart and give life an impetus when they are made to work together, for their great effect is in their harmony. These laws do not fail, for they are eternal. Working with them or adhering to them fully brings the desired goals and freedom. When we work against them, we will definitely experience production of undesirable results, which further create other negative forces or energies that work counterproductive to the harmonious progress. This is because of the impact of the great law of cause and effect. What you cause, you get the consequent effect. With this thinking in mind, I'd like to bring you to my talk on the third principle, which is understanding and fully operating on the divine laws. I have based this on the book of Joshua, chapter 1, verse 8, which reads, "This book of the law shall not depart from your mouth, but you shall meditate in it day and night, that you may observe to do according to all that is written in it. For then you will make your way prosperous, and then you will have good success." It is interesting the singular way the law is presented in the Bible. In the Old Testament especially, we read of the book of the law. This is because the law here means a collective, closely related laws and commandments that focus on the human welfare on earth, but deriving from God Himself. Now, I would like to discuss on this forum about 8 laws which are quite prominent and are the most effective instruments of prosperity and success. The first law is the law of love. This is the most taught and it is much referred to in the Bible. To an extent, I see it embracing all the other laws. I shall bring this up as we go on. First of all, it summarizes what Moses taught the children of Israel. He summed it up in Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 4 and 5, when he said, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength." The broader teaching is about the relationship between human beings. Jesus added this focus on human side, quoting Leviticus chapter 19, verse 18b. "You shall love your neighbor as yourself." And Jesus added more to this and said, "On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets." You see love there? The law of love originates with God. We read, "God is love." The most common verse in the Bible on this account says, in John 3:16, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish, but have everlasting life." How I long to give an exposition on this one day. Using the language of cause and effect, I can confidently say that by the very nature of God, he has created an impact to whoever believes. That is, whoever appropriates this love and responds to it effectively will produce great effect related to that love. For this matter, loving God with all your whole heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength truly means embracing the whole force as well as the power of love working positively in your inner being. This creates in your life a strong positive drive which moves the world to the divinely desired plan and purpose. The most interesting experience is that this law of love cuts across many areas of human life, whereby we use generally various terms like philosophy, that is love of wisdom; Philadelphia, that is love of the brethren; philanthropy, love of humanity; eros is a kind of love in sexual relationship; storge is a kind of love for the family, and so on. There is a context Paul uses philostorge, meaning family relationship or family love. The law of attraction is talked much about today. Looking at it closely, you will find that this is indeed the law of love. For love attracts many things. I now turn to the characteristics of the law of love by highlighting those mentioned by St. Paul in 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 4 to 8. I have set them in two categories. The first is a positive one. That is, love is patient, never gives up, bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love is kind and rejoices in the truth. Love never fails, and it is eternal. All these are strong characteristics of prosperity and success when we follow them, as it is indicated up there. The second category is the negative aspect, the counterproductive nature, put in terms of what love is not, which is the effect of the absence of love. Love is not jealous or conceited or proud. Love is not ill-mannered or selfish or irritable. Love does not keep a record of wrongs. Love is not happy with evil. All these, are these not the vices that plague our societies? Only because the positive forces are lacking, and the fruit therefrom is failure. Ills of every nature. I'd like to emphasize here that either side takes effect by the way we nourish it in our minds. We think, we absorb, we practice to an extent, we produce effect. That is habit, good or bad. You have a choice to make. A story is told of an old man discussing with his grandson. He told the grandson that inside his heart he had two tigers fighting. The good one was love and kindness. The other one was strife and hatred. The grandson asked, "Which one wins?" The grandfather answered, "The one I feed well." What you feed in your heart wins, cause and effect. To make love great is by working it out through the process of other laws. And one of the key law is the process of growth, little by little every day, as we continue practicing loving and loving everything that is presented to us by God. So I now turn to the next law, which is the law of growth. Now, the law of growth is a divine law that determines the development of every living thing, especially the human beings. There is inherent force or power of growth in every living object. Imagine the process of a bean seed growing to maturity. Perhaps if you want to go to the biblical language, Jesus used mustard seed. It has all the potential for growth inherent in itself as God created it. Once you plant it and water it, it will take its time to swell and life begins under the soil. The stem starts looking for the opportunity to go up. It has all the vitality to push up the soil and even pebbles. In a few days, we see the earth coming up, being pushed by the bean. There is power in the bean. At times, there is a struggle against a big stone, but the bean persists by going around the stone. If it's not too big, then there is a space to pass through. At last, it pops and strengthens up, ready for the journey to maturity. Meanwhile, the roots are growing and begin to hunt for water. And with the potential in the bean, they are able to draw the minerals and other nutrients that the bean needs from the soil. What a miracle to think of. Faith in the potential power, vitality, and persistence. The bean follows naturally the law of growth. When God created the universe, He set this process of growth for every living thing. Now let me address the process of growth a little bit, especially in us human beings. As a human being, you begin with an idea, as a seed thought that you plant in your mind. The more a single idea is developed into an ideal, the more effective will be its fruition. There are several factors that are involved in the process of growing this idea, or dream for that matter. In the previous video, I talked of dream. Firstly, the principle of growth has a divine spark, such that there is desire for growth, and as such, the effort to promote growth is essentially in you. Secondly, this principle focuses on increase or abundance as its ultimate goal. This is what we call development, which means the bringing out of that which is already within. I emphasize within as opposed to without, for the ultimate success of any entity is achieved when there is strong drive from the heart or mind, which derives its force or energy from the divine potential, and that is God. This drive has desire, vitality, intelligence, persistence, and those great forces within the mind. Thirdly, every growing entity is controlled by the individual potential in it. The potential in you, which however great or small, it depends on your way of thinking. It is enforced by the active forces in you and is the working activity in you. A being will take its time to grow. You cannot hurry it. Businesses take their time to grow. We miss out when we imagine we can rush things. The law of growth is made stronger by the way we use it, but we must follow it. For this reason, I now turn to the law of use, because growth and even love is strengthened by the way we use it. The law of use, which underlies all nature's instinctive cravings, is the inherent desire making the living thing draw to itself the nourishment and material it needs in order to use it. We find in our hearts and in our minds, we increase any thought product and make it effective by the way we use it. Remember the parable of the talents. The first two servants increased what they were given because they used the talents wisely to increase double. The third servant did not use the potential he had, and so he did not produce any growth. He was noted as lazy and wicked. This is the other side of the law of use. When any potential force in the mind is not used, it becomes weak and ineffective. This we see in our ordinary lives. Muscles that are not exercised will become weak and may not work when required to do it. In the same way, the spiritual activity in you that is not put to work will become dormant. Many times there are resistant forces that stand against this law of growth and the law of use. To an extent, some other law may be required to put in place. And this other law is the law of persistence. This law of persistence encompasses the law of perseverance, they work together, and that of the law of patience. 3-in-1 laws. Whereas persistence is putting pressure to get results, perseverance, on the other hand, works from inside to get the pressure going. Patience gives life an expectation in the waiting. I shall give an illustration here. Sometimes I use my drilling machine to make a hole on the wood or metal. I hold the machine strongly so that it can do the work. The force I use is persistence. The bait has to persevere in the hardness of the piece I'm drilling. Some give up by breaking or heating up, hence becoming blunt. Lastly, since I know what I'm doing and want, I have to be patient for the machine to take its time to drill. Think about that. The Bible says, "And let us not grow weary in well doing, for in due season we shall reap if we do not lose heart." That is from Galatians chapter 6 verse 9. See the triple law working here. In any case, sometimes it is worthwhile to relax and have time for reconstructing and recharging. The law of the Sabbath takes effect. Broadly speaking, all God's divine laws are made to benefit God's creation. But human beings have a tendency of acting on these divine laws from the narrow way of thinking, hence doing it for the sake of the law itself, or purporting to obey God, whether it benefits them or not, especially this law of the Sabbath which I'm talking about. Human beings have taken the external action which does not have any inward benefit. This is a problem Jesus faced from the Jews on account of the Sabbath day. The statement Jesus made to the Jews said this: Sabbath was made for man, but not man for the Sabbath. And this carries a deep meaning than we read on the surface. Now, Sabbath means rest. God put it in the human life that there must be a process of rejuvenation, a time to rest and relax, reconstruct and be recharged for the next days of work. I quote this from my book, The Fulfilled Christian Man, second edition, which is an e-book you can download from my website, which I'll tell you in due course. It is most interesting that among the 10 commandments, God required his people to remember the seventh day, which is Sabbath in Hebrew. So Sabbath means rest. God gave this command to help man to remain healthy and active in life. When a person works continuously without rest, the organs of the body develop stress-related ailments with a view to put pressure for one to rest. When this is not taken into consideration, one would have to pay the price by being in bed, unable to do anything. The body requires recuperation in this case. It also happens that a person's working threshold is affected seriously when he does not rest. He is irritated, and you both think slowly as well as work slowly. What he could produce in a few minutes may take hours with many mistakes. Many of the accidents that happen at home and on the road are caused by lack of rest, relaxation, and sleep. In which case, clear judgment is affected. For those who do manual work, the muscles become fatigued and productivity is reduced. I read of a case of a man whose work was to cut down trees together with other workers. One day they missed him and started wondering what had happened to him. A day later, he came and gave the answer that he had gone to sharpen his axe. That day he was able to cut down his portion of trees, both for the day and the one he had missed. The secret was that his muscles had relaxed from fatigue, so he was strong and rejuvenated, and of course his axe was in good shape. This reminds me of the passage from Ecclesiastes chapter 10 verse 10, which reads from New King James Version, "If the axe is dull and one does not sharpen it, then he must use more strength. But wisdom brings success," which I interpret as working smart. Now, rest and recreation, therefore, is not a waste of time, but a time of rejuvenation, reflection, and stock-taking. It is working smart. Rest includes sleeping. This is when the body cells are renewed, refreshed of the mind. Refreshment of the mind is effected that way. And actually, when you wake up fresh, you can find yourself thinking more clearly about the many things you are not able to think about last evening. So let us work the way God intended us to work, and we will be healthy, wealthy, and wise. You cannot talk of prosperity and success and related blessings without thinking of a law underlying this. This is the divine law of harnessing, producing, and managing of resources, known as economy. To interpret this briefly, eco in Greek means house. Nomos means law. So this is the law of the house. And moving toward the higher thinking on this, we see the house is the whole earth. And then we go further and we see the whole universe. That is the origin of the divine order in the way we make best use of this thinking. In normal thinking, we have narrowed this to the study of economics and stewardship. When this law is used properly, it makes a nation and its people become prosperous and successful. When misused, it brings about poverty and many bad experiences. This law not only deals with the physical, tangible resources, but also includes the spiritual, divine plans for humanity. It is when we begin with a broad or holistic understanding of this law that we see our use of the resources as dependent on our spiritual understanding of God, who has set the divine order or plan to be achieved for the production of the best achievements. I have not exhausted the list of the divine laws. I shall talk about them in due course of elaborating this theme of life in abundance, our divine heritage. Now, I believe this has given you some points to ponder for further activity. However, I'm not done yet. I have more under my sleeves by God's grace. In the next video, I'd like to talk about the divine presence in all our endeavors. Please make a point to watch it. Your contact is important for developing a forum on the theme. I would like you, therefore, if you please, to click your like, comment, and subscribe below. Please also share this with your friends. I look forward to your viewing next week. Welcome, and God bless you.